I largely believe that when you take a deep dive into history, you definitely do find a lot of fascinating and interesting facts about our past. But along with it, you also uncover some deep, dark, and uncomfortable secrets about where we have come from. Uncovering the past is like opening Pandora's box, where you come across lies, you come across deceit, illicit activities, and a lot of unlawful things that are generally frowned upon by today's world. And that's exactly what I found out when I started digging into the details of Maruti's past. Now, Maruti launched their first car in 1981, but the fact is that the company was registered some 11 years ago in 1970 by Sanjay Gandhi. Now, apparently Sanjay Gandhi had a big love affair with cars, where he actually even went to Rolls-Royce in Crewe, England to get his apprenticeship. Although it later was known that Sanjay Gandhi did not get accepted over there, but in fact he had to pay his way into working at Rolls-Royce. Once Sanjay Gandhi returned back to India, he had this dream of creating India's first indigenous car, a car that would be built completely in India by Indians without using any foreign material or parts. A proper Pakka Swadeshi car. Like in that time, a lot of the cars that were coming to India were actually cars made abroad by manufacturers, which was just rebranded to Indian names. For example, the Hindustan Ambassador was actually the Morris Oxford. Till here, the story is quite straightforward, in fact very noble as well, and a great idea for Indians. But here's where the story starts getting twisted. Now, we all know that developing an indigenous car takes a huge amount of effort and resources, let it be in terms of finance, let it be in terms of research and development. And to fulfill these requirements, the government of India thought that it will be more sensible to make it a private limited entity rather than a publicly limited firm, so that they could secure resources, fundings, and other things for the company. Now, while this company would be privately held, the government promised that it will help the company in all sorts of ways possible, where it will help it in terms of legalities, acquisitions, as well as trying to find finances and resources for the development of this indigenous car. And so a tender was floated in which a lot of Indian as well as foreign manufacturers showed interest, including companies like Volkswagen, Ford, and others, and also Indian companies such as Arvind. But that's a story for another day. Although what happened in the end didn't surprise a lot of us. The tender was given to this relatively unknown company headed by Sanjay Gandhi. And to make things worse, this is what Indira Gandhi said in the press conference back then. My son is a delicate young man, and with whatever money and energy he has modeled a car, not a posh one, but one fairly comfortable and suitable for Indian conditions. My son has shown enterprise, and I just could not say no to him. If he is not encouraged, how can other young men take risks? This was said by Indira Gandhi in a press conference in 1970. Now, while Indian politics has always been bombarded with scams and crony capitalism, the Maruti saga was by far one of the most dirtiest display of politics ever put in front of Indian citizens back then. And I mean, I can only imagine what would be going on in Indian people's minds back then, seeing all this unravel in front of them, and what they must be thinking of their government and its principles. Now that Sanjay Gandhi had secured the contract, it was time to start setting up the factory that will eventually manufacture India's first indigenous people's car. And to do that, land was selected in Gurgaon, which was just 20 kilometers away, very conveniently 20 kilometers away from the Prime Minister's residence, so that Mr. Sanjay Gandhi could reach there easily. For doing this, a lot of villages had to be uprooted, and a lot of people who had very fertile lands were paid pennies. And all of this was done with the help of Bansi Lal, the then Chief Minister of Haryana, who wanted to make sure that the Crown Prince's demands were fulfilled and that he always stays happy and satisfied. And not just that, the land that was chosen was a direct hazard to the Indian Air Force station over there in Gurgaon, and it was within 1000 meters of the defense ammunition dump, which was a direct threat to the security laws back then. Now that the company was done breaking all the town planning as well as defense security laws, it was time for them to move on to their next venue, which was procuring building materials by illegal means. There was black marketing of cement, and steel was being extorted out of industries. And when the company was done doing these illegal things, they moved their activities on to illegal ways of capital procurement. To start getting funding from the operations, the company started approaching industrialists who didn't mind being a part of this because they knew that they would be getting political favors in return. And then there were deposits taken from dealerships way before the production of the car had even started, where dealers had to pay a minimum of 3 lakh rupees to the company. Now that all the assets were secured, including the land as well as the capital, it was time to start manufacturing the cars. Unfortunately, that thing still remains as a dream. Now, while the body of this car was hand-beaten into shape, Sanjay Gandhi had a real tough time developing the engine for this car. And that was kind of obvious because there were no high-profile engineers who had the technical expertise to develop and design an engine who were working in the factory. So Sanjay Gandhi did the next best thing possible, which is to go to somebody else to get an engine that would power his cars. And despite having a principle of making 100% indigenous cars, Sanjay Gandhi had to eventually go to Villiers to source an engine. But unfortunately, that also didn't work because the engines in question were two-stroke engines from motorcycles which were hugely underpowered. So it's reported that the first prototypes of his car actually used engines from the NSU. And while the company was still debating on what engines to use for their first people's car, the product itself was getting bad reviews from all across the place. There were reports of bad roof drainage systems where the drainage was not at all there, so the roof water used to all come inside and flood the cabin, the passenger seats. Apart from that, there was reports of bad suspension quality, really terrible steering, and overall really shoddy build quality. Now there's a bit of a twist in the story because 1970, when Sanjay Gandhi registered the original company, he had registered the company as Maruti Technical Services. But later on, when they got the grant, there was a new company that was registered called as Maruti Limited. And Maruti Technical Services would be the company that would provide Maruti Limited with all the technical know-how and knowledge. Weird, no? But there's a reason behind that. Oh, also, and in this time, there was a third company which was also registered called Maruti Heavy Vehicles, which would basically take old used road rollers and refurbish them and sell it back into the market. And these companies basically were nothing else but shell companies of the main company, which used to sort of help in siphoning the funds from one company to the other. And due to all these things combined, the only thing that people saw in 1970s was a shell of hope and nothing else. And eventually in 1977, the company finally ran out of funds, and in 1988, the High Court of Punjab and Haryana ordered the shutdown of Maruti Limited. And from that point on, it's pretty much history as we know it, where in 1981, the company was re-registered as a public limited company, and ironically the company that was started as a 100% indigenous project that will manufacture their own engines, develop their own cars, all in-house and all over here in India, had to eventually go and tie up with Suzuki Motors of Japan to bring the SS80 to India, which was the first Maruti sold to the general public. Well, I hope you liked this deep dive into history. It took me a lot of research and went across some really amazing articles to read this. In specific, a very interesting article from India Today back in 1977, where there was a huge report on all these issues and all these scams which were unearthed by the magazine back then. And I tried bringing out most of it over here for you in the most concise and effective way as possible. I hope you liked this video, and I hope to see you back in the next one. If you like videos like this, please do let me know. I will try finding more interesting facts and details about the automotive culture and history of our past. Till then, ciao.